All right, good afternoon. We are delighted to welcome back our friend Jean-Pierre Lacroix, who, as you know, is the Undersecretary General for Peace Operations, who's just returned from Israel, from Syria, and from Lebanon, and is here to brief you on his trip. Jean-Pierre, please.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. Well, actually, I visited Lebanon and Syria. I was planning to visit Israel, but due to the events, I couldn't. But I will be in touch with the Israeli officials via VTC over the next couple of days. So briefly, the visit to Lebanon had, first of all, a goal of visiting our colleagues in UNIFIL. Of course, interacting with the authorities. UNIFIL has been working very hard over the last couple of months following the cessation of hostilities. I believe that there are a number of achievements that have been realized with the support of UNIFIL. This is what we can observe on the ground. The Lebanese Armed Forces have continued to strengthen their presence south of the Litani River, and that has happened with the support of UNIFIL. There has been additional action with a view to identify and eventually neutralize caches of weapons, which is an important element in the implementation of Resolution 1701. UNIFIL also continues to play a critical role of liaison and deconfliction between the Lebanese Armed Forces and the Israeli Defense Forces, and they also do a lot in terms of supporting rehabilitation, supporting the population, which is something that UNIFIL colleagues have always been doing, including, of course, with the critical role in terms of mine action and clearing roads. Now, I think it's important to highlight these achievements, although we know that more needs to be done to achieve the full implementation of Resolution 1701. There continues to be violation. There continues to be more that needs to be done, again, to achieve a full implementation of that resolution. Now, another but related aspect was that my visit coincided with the last days in office of Force Command General Arnaldo Lázaro, and I was privileged to attend a farewell reception that was given to him by the Lebanese authorities, and I also, of course, had my meeting with the Lebanese authority in the presence of General Lázaro, and I could see the highest level of appreciation expressed by the Lebanese authorities and frankly all Lebanese interlocutors and also the diplomatic communities. So of course this is completely consistent with our own very high level of appreciation to General Lázaro, who was at the head of UNIFIL during extremely challenging time. And at the same time, of course, we very much welcome General Abbagnara from Italy, who just take over as the new force commander, head of UNIFIL. Of course, we wish you all the very best, and we have started working very closely with him as we move forward. Now, another important element, of course, was interacting with the Lebanese authorities, and the unanimous message I heard about from them about UNIFIL was their view that there continues to be a critical need for the continuous presence of UNIFIL. That was stated to me very clearly and absolutely unequivocally by all Lebanese interlocutors, starting with President Aoun, the Prime Minister, the Speaker, all the ministers, the High Command of the Lebanese Armed Forces. And I see that the Lebanese government has just sent a letter to the Security Council today expressing their wish that for a continuation of UNIFIL's presence in Lebanon. Of course, all of these doesn't mean that Lebanon shouldn't continue to evolve. UNIFIL has done a lot to evolve with the adaptation plan, and I believe that the outcome is there already for everyone to see, and further efforts at evolving and adapting, of course, are absolutely warranted, of course, also based on the evolution of the situation in Lebanon. Now, I have to say that, as we all know, I mean, we do some contingency planning for the case where missions would not receive all the cash that is provided for them in the budget for the next budget cycle, July 1st to June 30th, 2026. And of course, I have indicated to the authorities that I met that we have to do this, and if we were to implement these plans, then the only reason would be lack of cash. And as you know, we are all operating under a severe liquidity constraint. Now, that is it for Lebanon. As far as Syria is concerned, then again, I visited both the UN peacekeepers there, UNDOF, as well as the Syrian authorities, the interim authorities. UNDOF continues to play a role that is critically important and recognized as such, liaising between the Syrian authorities on one hand and the Israeli authorities on the other hand, and doing their best to deconflict. As you know, the force is operating in a changed environment, where on the one hand, of course, there was this change in the political dispensation in Syria, but also the presence of the Israeli Defense Forces in the area of so-called area of separation, where, according to the 1973 Disengagement of Forces Agreement, only UNDOF can be present with the military presence. And of course, the presence of the IDF in those areas is a violation. It's quite clear, and of course, I've been sharing this repeatedly with the Israeli interlocutors. UNDOF also plays an important role in, and I would say since the change in the political dispensation of Syria, an increased role in trying to support the population with the Quick Impact Project, interacting with them, and also relaying their complaint to the Israeli authorities, because in some cases we received complaint from the Syrian population in the area where UNDOF is present as a result of the activity or some activities of the IDF, and we've been conveying those to the Israeli interlocutors. Now, of course, I interacted with the Syrian authorities, with the interim president and the minister, and they expressed support to UNDOF, also in a very clear and unequivocal manner. I thanked Interim President Shara and the ministers for the excellent relation that was established between UNDOF and the Syrian authorities. And I recall that in my first visit after the political change in Syria, one of the key asks was to make sure that there would be channels of communication and interaction between UNDOF and the new Syrian authorities for the purpose of making sure that UNDOF would be able to operate. And this is something that has happened, and I'm very grateful to the Syrian authorities for that. And at the same time, I heard very clearly from the Syrian authorities that they are ready to assume the full authority of the whole of Syrian territory, including deploying the military and security presence to all Syrian territory. That includes the area where UNDOF is, of course, according to and in consistency with consistent with the provision of the 1973 agreement. But the clear message from the Syrian authorities was their readiness to assume fully their security responsibility throughout all Syrian territory in compliance with international law and again, more specifically, the 1973 agreement. And we welcome, of course, that expression of readiness. The goal that we are pursuing when it comes to UNDOF and our presence in Syria is a return to the full implementation of the 1973 Disengagement of Force Agreement with no presence other than that of UNDOF in the area of separation and consistent and compliance with the 1973 agreement when it comes to the presence of respectively of the IDF on the so-called Alpha side and the Syrian forces on so-called Bravo side. So this is really it when it comes to my visit to the Middle East. And again, I will be interacting with the Israeli authorities soon, as I do on a regular basis. And of course, the visit to Lebanon and the visit to Syria were taking place in the run-up to the extension or discussion on the extension of the mandate of both operations. Regarding UNDOF, the Security Council is about to make a decision fairly soon. It's imminent when it comes to Lebanon, of course. The discussion regarding the extension of UNIFIL's mandate will take place in August. Perhaps just a word on the DRC, where, as you know, I mean, we have a MONUSCO present. We understand that the peace agreement between the DRC and Rwanda is facilitated by the United States is expected to be signed today at 1 p.m. in Washington, D.C. by respective Minister of Foreign Affairs. Of course, the signature has not taken place yet, but we would wish to place on record that we welcome these efforts, and in fact, we welcome all efforts to a de-escalation and the advancement of dialogue in the DRC and the wider Great Lakes region. Of course, as UN, and particularly when it comes to MONUSCO, we are fully committed to supporting these efforts and the implementation of the peace agreement. Again, signature has not taken place yet, but I just wanted to highlight our strong support to these efforts and our gratitude to the United States for being quite in the lead in those efforts, but also other stakeholders, Qatar, and certainly the important role of the African Union, Eastern African Community, and SADC. This is a very important and fruitful partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Deji, and then Ephraim.
Mr. Under Secretary General Shidachi with China Central Television. First, on behalf of the UN Correspondent Association, thank you for your briefing. You just mentioned that UNIFIL is going to extend its mandate in August. There are news that there are stories that Israel and U.S. might oppose for another extension of UNIFIL mandate. Have you ever talked to anybody from U.S. and Israel to stress the importance, and how are you going to persuade them? Or maybe your position, should it be extended or not? Thank you.
Right. Well, to the best of my knowledge, first of all, there is no final position, no position presented as final that has been expressed neither by Israel nor by the United States. I have mentioned to you the strong position that was recently made clear to the Security Council by the authorities of Lebanon. Of course, Lebanon is a host country. It's a powerful and important voice in this discussion. We too believe that the role of UNIFIL continues to be very important in this critical phase where we haven't seen yet full implementation of Resolution 1701. And I would say one thing. UNIFIL is not an end in itself, and UNIFIL is not something that is standalone. It's the tool for supporting the implementation of Resolution 1701. So the two are inextricably linked. And we believe that there continues to be an indispensable role for UNIFIL in support of those efforts aimed at fully implementing Resolution 1701, of course, with the understanding that ultimately the responsibility for implementing that resolution lies with the parties.
Let me give a follow-up. I'm sorry. If I were the Israeli authority, I would ask, 1701, it's almost 20 years. It's not implemented. So why there's a necessity to keep UNIFIL there?
What I would then say, and of course you might ask the question to the Israeli, but to the best of my knowledge, neither Israel nor Lebanon nor any other member state have walked away from their commitment and support to Resolution 1701 as the political platform for a political solution.
Frank, then Gabriel.
Thank you so much, Monsieur Lacroix. On UNIFIL as well, you spoke of contingency plans. Can you talk a little bit about what contingency plans do you have in case the U.S. goes through with its withdrawal of funding for UNIFIL, especially that we know that UNIFIL actually provides the cash for when other missions are suffering the same financial trouble. So what kind of contingency plans do you have? And then a quick follow-up after.
I think on one hand, we've always considered, I personally always considered that it is our duty to make the most prudent use of the financial contribution by our member states. So it's a responsibility that we have. On the other hand, we've always expected consistency from the member states. That is, on the one hand, the member states are giving us our mandates, and if they, through the Security Council, give us the mandate, then we expect consistency in the form of payment on time and in full of the financial contribution to peacekeeping. So that would be, of course, our expectations. Now, we all know that we are already, as the rest of the UN, operating under very severe liquidity constraint. There is, let's face it, uncertainty in terms of the extent to which the payment will be received, and therefore it is our duty to work on contingency planning. Now, it is an ongoing work, so there's not much I can tell you right now in terms of the detail, but it's just our duty to make sure that we are prepared for every possible scenario. At the same time, continuing with a strong advocacy, which is what we are doing, and all of us, including the Secretary General, continuous advocacy to all member states in support of peacekeeping, but also in support of payment of contribution to peacekeeping. I can tell you that the Secretary General himself is strongly involved in these efforts with heads of states and heads of government.
Sorry, Steph, one quick follow-up. You spoke of the importance of UNIFIL and how critical its role is now in this situation. Can you describe to us, so we understand better, what would happen if UNIFIL leaves the south of Lebanon? Like, what are your concerns? What would happen without UNIFIL, so people can understand? Because we're hearing a lot of catastrophic scenarios right and left.
Okay, well, I mean, the easy answer would be hypothetical, but I think I can say a bit more than this. First of all, again, I think that you cannot distinguish or separate Resolution 1701 from UNIFIL. It's a package. When the Security Council adopted Resolution 1701, it created UNIFIL to be an enabler, a tool that aims at supporting the implementation of Resolution 1701. And I, for one, would be very, very worried about the future of Resolution 1701 if there is no UNIFIL on the ground to support the implementation of that resolution, both in terms of the signal that no UNIFIL would mean in terms of the commitment to all parties to Resolution 1701, but also in terms of the practical support that is currently provided by UNIFIL. And I have to say that the interlocutors to whom I spoke, particularly in Lebanon, were concerned, of course, that of course all of this hypothetical, but that they continue to need the presence and the role and the support of UNIFIL for the various tasks that I mentioned, but also to sort of help mitigate and reduce tension that remain quite high in the region, as you know.
Gabriel, then Joe, then Stefano.
Thank you, Steph. Thank you, Mr. Lacroix. Gabriel Izanda from Al Jazeera English. Just two quick questions on Syria. One is the Security Council, as you mentioned, will be meeting on Monday on UNDOF. I know you don't want to necessarily preview that meeting, but can you give us some sort of sense of what your thinking is going into that meeting on the renewal of the mandate? And then just a quick follow-up on Syria. You said that the interim authorities expressed to you that they are ready to take over security for the whole of the country. What's your assessment on their assessment of that?
Right.
Thank you.
Well, as far as UNDOF is concerned, we believe that it continues to play an important role, and especially, I would say, in those difficult and sort of evolving circumstances. And I haven't heard any suggestion that the mandate of UNDOF is questioned neither by the size nor by the Security Council. But of course, I cannot speak on behalf of the Security Council. We will see what determination they will make regarding UNDOF and its mandate. When it comes to what I heard from the Syrian authorities, and again limiting myself to UNDOF and the security and situation in the area that is covered by UNDOF, I heard this commitment, and I think it's welcome because ultimately, again, I stated that our objective would be a return to the full implementation of the 1973 Disengagement of Forces Agreement, with UNDOF playing a supporting role in monitoring the respect of that agreement. And of course, in addition, of course, to the fact that ultimately it is for the Syrian authorities and only for them to exert full security responsibility of the whole of Syrian territory, from the point of view of returning to full implementation of the 1973 agreement, then the restoration of Syrian security presence in the concerned areas would be of critical importance.
Thank you. Stefano, then Joe, and then Dulcie.
Thank you very much. Stefano Vaccara, La Voce di New York, Ital Press. If I understand well, you were in Lebanon during that 12 days war, so-called, between Iran and Israel, correct? Were you in Lebanon? Because until a few months ago, basically Iran, through Hezbollah, controlled a lot what was going on in Lebanon. Did you have discussion with Lebanese authority, but especially also with UNIFIL, about if in the future, when the war is going to get worse, what is the danger for the mission, about if there are still elements that can be controlled by Iran and the UNIFIL could become a target? Did you have that kind of discussion?
I think that what I can tell you is if there is a UN mission which is really trained and experienced in very, very, very dangerous security situation, really a belligerence, an environment of belligerence, it's UNIFIL. So they do have quite the experience. In fact, as a result of what was happening between Israel and Iran, the lots of interception going on in the sky, and with consequences in terms of debris falling, both in the area of operation of UNIFIL and area of operation of UNDOF. And of course, that has led our colleagues to seek shelter on a number of occasions. Now, so that is one thing. Then obviously the events between Israel and Iran, I think clearly had raised some worries, which thankfully I believe have not materialized, of increasing tension in Lebanon. But and we hope that as a result of the cessation of hostilities, I mean, things, at least from that point of view, are for the moment settled. But UNIFIL remains, even at the cessation of hostility, in an environment that is very volatile, with the degree of danger that still remains significant. And therefore, this is a force, as I said, that is extremely experienced and professional in the ways that it combines both the delivery of the mandate, but at the same time everything that is needed to protect the safety and security of our peacekeepers.
Joe and then Dulcie.
Joseph Klein, Canada Free Press. What role, if any, has the UN played in connection with the negotiation of the settlement agreement between Rwanda and the DRC facilitated by the Trump administration?
Mm-hmm.
And do you have any knowledge of what the key terms of that settlement agreement are that you can share with us?
Thank you. Our colleagues have been in touch with the US, and we've been kept abreast of the elements that are currently discussed. Of course, we'll see now. The signature is, I believe, imminent. I mean, and therefore, we'll know more about this in hopefully in the next hours. But yes, we've been in touch with the US. We've been in touch with other stakeholders and partners, including Qatar, the AU, and the two sub-regional organizations, the ESC and SADC. Obviously, as well with Rwanda and the DRC, and we are ready to fully support whatever needs to be supported as a result of this agreement. I understand that the agreement is fully consistent and in fact supportive of resolutions of the Security Council, including the latest resolution, which I believe is 3771, if I'm not mistaken, but don't take my word for it when it comes to the number. A resolution that calls for, that has all the good messages, basically, including a call for a ceasefire and an affirmation of the important role that MONUSCO plays and could play in the event of a ceasefire. Again, we're fully ready to support the implementation of any agreement, and in particular that one, should it be signed, which is, of course, what we hope.
Thank you. Dulcie, then Javier.
I wanted to ask you, since the U.S. is behind in its payments to UN peacekeeping, how is it still funding UNIFIL, or is it not funding UNIFIL? Thanks.
Well, I will not enter into the sort of cycle of payment because this is a science in which I'm not really versed, or at least enough to give you some details. What I can tell you is that we are already in a challenging liquidity situation, and all of us already have to make significant efforts at saving. Plus, we have uncertainty when it comes to the amount of cash that will be made available to peacekeeping, and therefore we have to do the needed contingency planning that applies to UNIFIL, that applies to all missions. We've been working very hard with all of them. This is really what I can tell you at this stage.
Thank you. Javier, then you, and then we'll close it off.
Javier Cortazo from FA Newswire. Hezbollah has been severely hit and weakened by Israel And as a consequence, have you seen a significant reduction in the presence of Hezbollah in the South Lebanon? Or has the UNIFIL a new perception of this presence and the strength of Hezbollah?
I mean, clearly there has been an overall assessment that Hezbollah's military capacities have been seriously weakened. That is what open sources are saying. Now, as far as we are concerned, I think there's an important point that is always needed to be clarified. Is in the regular sort of incident that Hezbollah had been facing in the past and still faces occasionally, we're dealing with people who do not claim a particular affiliation with a particular group, right? Which has made us vigilant in terms of how we qualify those individuals responsible for this incident, because we have a rule which is very clear. We report as fact only what we have observed directly as fact. And I'm saying this because we have been subject of criticism for not, saying this has been done by X, Y, and Z, but we have to stick to this, otherwise we lose our credibility. We continue to have some we call hostile incidents in the form of acts, restriction to our freedom of movement, sometimes hostile acts against UNIFIL. As you know, there continues to be also violation from the Israeli Defense Forces in the form of their presence in southern Lebanon and violations of airspace. So yes, I mean the situation remains unsettled. But if you look at the positive side, then there can be also, and there is, a set of conditions that are more propitious for the progress in the implementation of Resolution 1701. But for that, we need, first of all, continued and strong political commitment by both parties. And we also need, I believe, for UNIFIL to be able to continue its supporting work at this critical moment.
Thank you. You, and then we'll close it off, please.
Thank you for your briefing. My name is Yu from Kyodo News, Japanese news agency. I have two questions. One is a follow-up financial situation. So Dorothy has asked you, but just to make sure, are there already any financial impact? And then another is UN aid initiative. It's another topic, but you are in charge of the one cluster. So as I heard on Tuesday, your explanation, but it's a little bit difficult to understand. So could you explain a little bit about your cluster? Thank you.
Sure. Now, we're talking about two different exercises. I mean, the UNAT obviously is the Secretary General initiative, which aim essentially as eliciting, efficiency, streamlining, avoiding duplication, and making the whole Secretariat and, frankly, the whole UN galaxy more effective and cost-effective, against the backdrop of the financial constraints that we're all experiencing. And yes, DPO is involved in that. It concerns the Secretariat. It concerns what we call the regular budget. But I will not go into the technicalities, but since we are funded both by the regular budget and by the peacekeeping budget, and we've been working from that comprehensive point of view and factoring in both what is being supported by regular budget and what is supported by the so-called support account, which is the part of the peacekeeping budget which goes to supporting the Secretariat in as much as it supports peacekeeping operations. So sorry for this long development, but that is what we're doing, and it's ultimately it would lead to a budget or revised budget proposals. Technically it's a budget exercise, And now we have been, working very closely with other departments within the so-called peace and security pillar. We have conveyed our proposal to highest authorities, and then, we will be pending further follow-up. On the other hand, what we're doing with the peacekeeping mission is contingency play. It's a liquidity exercise. It's saving cash. The budgets are currently being discussed and I believe finalized at the level of General Assembly, the 5th Committee, and therefore what we're looking at is, making contingencies, working on contingencies, when it comes to whatever level of cash will be made available to us.
Thank you very much, Jean-Pierre. Thank you, and we hope to have you back soon.
Thank you.
Just a reminder, we have the DSG and number of guests coming in at 12:45, so you have a few minutes.